Alrighty, folks, what's going on? This is Matt here for Dark One Linux Tech and Gaming, where this is the fusion of Linux technology and gaming, and we're reacting to a video that unfortunately Google kept throwing up in front of me 4 or 5 times in the last, I don't know, day or two. And I'm not a fan, personally, of the persons I like, no ill will toward them. I'm not their target demo. Let's just put it that way. And this is Linux is hard to use, quote unquote. It's 2022. Stop the BS already. Well, let's roll into it and see if I'm going to be bashing my head off a wall, shall we?
Hey everybody, hope you're doing well today. Before we get started with today's video, I want to thank everybody. We're at 18,900 subscribers still. We're almost to 19. It's like everything come to a halt, but I'm still grateful and I still want to thank you guys. And another thing I want to remind you is that you can join the channel for just 99 cents now. Heads up, January 1st, 2023, the MVP, VIP, and Pro versions of the membership will be going away, and all those perks will drop on over to the eBuzz Central member. So let's go ahead and close out of that. And I do want to apologize. It's raining and storming here pretty hard in the central United States. So if you hear a little bit of thunder in the background, I apologize. And you might hear a little bit of the rain. Now, I also want to send a thank you out to my newest member, Robert Ross. Thank you so much for becoming a member to the channel. It means so much to me that you enjoy the content enough to support the channel. Now, as most of you know who watch my videos know, I'm pretty opinionated sometimes to a fault. But I've had a lot of people in my comments recently, and I don't know if it's just trolls or not, but there's so many of them, I don't think that they're trolls. I do really think there are people out there that believe, hands down, point blank period, Windows is the only way to go. And that's their belief. That's what they support. 90% of the time I would say, hey, good for you, go do what you want. But here's what most of them say when I respond to their comments. Linux is just too hard to use. I am ready to remove this BS from people's minds. Linux isn't hard to use. Here's what I get most of the time in my comments. Too many Linux distros. Linux sucks and it's hard to install. Linux is hard because you have to use the terminal. No app support, and you cannot game on Linux, which all of you know is pretty much crap now in Linux. You can pretty much do anything you want, whether it be office work, whether it be editing videos. You can do pretty much everything that you need to do inside of Linux. So my question is,
Okay, so can you do what you need to in Linux for most people? Yes. How you get there, the end result might be what you want. The journey to get the end result is not going to be the fucking same. So when most people talk about application support, etc., like what you were pointing out, like video editing and office shit, they need certain things. Most people that I've talked to personally that do, and I hate the term professional work, but people who have a reliance on certain applications or workflows or ecosystems that they live in, like the Adobe suite and all the other shit, not a fan of it, but I understand why they need to go where they need to go. Example, somebody who's a super big like macro user when it comes to like Office, as much as I like only Office, better than LibreOffice, not all those macros are going to work. Sometimes the formatting's fucked when it comes into any of the other alternatives that are available, even the paid ones. So you're making really broad, general, quite frankly, stupid ass fucking statements. Most people, yes, most mom, pop, and regular consumers will be perfectly fine with the tools that are offered and available for Linux. See where it keeps going, and I'll just leave it at that. But you're making very broad, general fucking statements when it comes to technology, and that is the wrong mindset to fucking take, because broad, general statements would mean that the vast majority of people would think or feel or understand this. We are a niche within a niche within a fucking niche. We are literally like 3 times Inception type deal. People like you just don't fucking poke your head out of the Inception enough to actually understand that.
When do we stop it? When do we stop the madness? What do we need to do? And most of the times I'm going to ask somebody, when was the last time you installed an operating system? If your answer is a few years ago, or when I first got my PC, or maybe back in 2005, 2010, it's time that you try to install.
Or if you're talking to people outside of the technology field, they'll give you one better. Fucking never. How many times have you seen a MacBook on sale because the drive just needs to, the OS just needs to be reinstalled, or the drive itself is fine, but the OS got corrupted. Take your pick. Same with Windows. It works both ways. You are speaking to generally, but you are also speaking like for like a technology, like people who care end of this. Who's your fucking audience, bro? If it's going to be the people who care about this, then whatever. But if this is like, you're talking generalities for, oh, it's fine for most people. Most people aren't going to fucking care. Most people aren't going to ever install a fucking OS. That's the reality.
Install an operating system. But don't pick Windows. Go out on a ledge. Take a chance. Try installing Linux. I know that people have previously complained about it being hard to install, but really it's not. It's easier to install nowadays than Windows. And I understand when people nowadays choose an operating system, Windows is pretty much straightforward. It's what they know. It's what they've been indoctrinated into using, for lack of a better word. Linux is hard to use. That BS needs to be thrown out the window because there's a lot of distributions that you can use on Linux. Now, if you come to my channel, I go over 100 different distributions, if not more.
Hashtag shameless self-plug.
I show you how to take everything from bare metal all the way up to a complete operating system. Need to do office work? Got you covered. Need to do video editing? Got you covered. Need to do photo editing? Got you covered. I pretty much go through everything. It makes everything simple. You can watch a couple videos, go out, take a chance, and do what you want to do. Now, if you're
all I'm going to say, if you are speaking to the general technology enthusiast who happens to come across these videos, then yeah, you do you. If you're speaking, as you do, also to the general consumer who uses technology, no. Because most of them aren't going to reinstall an OS. Most of them aren't going to fucking install an OS. Once people generically learn patterns and things and ways to interoperate and stuff and all the other shit, most of them don't want to. It's not that they don't want to change. It's just that if it's not until it's broken, that's when people are willing to change or try something different. That's when people care. That's what you don't get. So, short version, I'm only going to recommend these kind of changes when people are looking to do them. Willing, openness, and etc. Or have a give a shit to actually give a fuck about any of it. Because that's what matters to them. Most consumers, most general end users, don't give a two-bit flying fuck about what they use to get there. To them, they might have a preference for a Craftsman wrench, but any wrench will do in most situations. But if they have the choice and know it's a Craftsman, they're gonna pick the fucking Craftsman. That's the logic of most people. That's where the whole brand loyalty and like arguing about shit like that thing comes into play. But at the end of the day, we all choose, we might have a similar tool, the OS, to get to the same end result, which is a finished product. But the journey and the expectation and the tool that we use to get there can be the same. It's just going to be a different fucking brand. And most people, we'll use the housing end of things. Most people just give a shit that the PVC piping is there so that when they flush the toilet, the shit goes to the septic and not out into their lawn or into the house. That's what people care about. They don't give a shit about the brand of PVC piping. So realistically, we'll get. I just think you have a flawed logic of where you're starting from already. Anyway, let's go back into see what he has to say some more.
If you're new to this channel, when we say Linux or I say Linux, I'm referring to GNU Linux. Now, it's a Linux kernel. It's not an operating system in and
Oh, shut the fuck
Linux
up.
is a kernel, and then you build software on top of it to turn it into an operating system.
Then you can make the argument that it's just a Windows kernel with software on top of it too. Shut the fuck up. GNU lost that battle. You lost the marketing battle, GNU. Get over it. Linux won. Get over it. Again, see prior PVC. I don't need to know the branding to know that the piping fucking works. Cool. Thank you. Those that need to know, no. Most people aren't going to give a fuck.
Installation is where people supposedly find it most difficult. I have gone through installation of Linux. It can't be any easier than what you want to do on here. You download a Linux distribution and you put it on a USB. You boot into it off that USB. You got a little thing up here that says install it. You click it. Guess what? You're off to the races. Put in your name, put in your location, put in what kind of keyboard you got, put in your password. It does all the hard work for you.
Oh, really? Does all the hard work for you. Okay, Mr. Does all the hard work for you. Which distro? Which ISO? Which one are you going to tell Grandma to go download? Okay, Grandma goes and downloads, say, when I spent Ubuntu, whatever. Insert distro here. They have an ISO now. They know what to do with it? No, it's just a fucking thing on their computer now that's taking up 2 to 4 gigs, give or take, depending on your ISO. Okay, genius. You didn't tell them that they need to download Rufus or Etcher to, install that to the USB drive, so that Grandma can install, that ISO to this. You didn't also tell Grandma how to, change the boot priorities. Maybe disable secure boot. What's the keyboard combination? Well, what's her laptop model? What's her machine model? What's her motherboard model? How do you access the BIOS? How do you access UEFI? Kind of forgetting some steps, bro. Who are you speaking to? Because Grandma ain't going to know where to go with a fucking file that you just tell her to download. It doesn't do all the hard lifting for you. You want to talk about? It's easy. Don't kind of just step over other things and other steps.
And then once you've got it installed, all you got to do is come over to your local store to get all your applications and start downloading applications to your heart's content. Now, one thing I do believe, on most Linux distributions, you have a software center. You just come in here. Now, I want to remind you guys, this isn't like the Mac OS Software Center, and it most definitely is not like the Microsoft Store. When you come into here, when you come into Discover, you're ready to do business. You're ready to get applications. You can go in here like Kdenlive. If you wanted to install it, you just click right here, and it's going to install. So you're not playing any games of, is this a good application to download or not? Because if it's in their software center, it is safe to use. Next thing, here's the most I hear all the time. Let's open this up. This right here is
good and safe are not mutual to one another. You can have a safe application, but the application still be bad, and you can have bad applications still be safe. And the reality is, just like the other stores, there are bad applications as well in the repos. Just what it is. It might not be bad for some, but for general people, it might be bad. As an example, I know this is going to be a weird, esoteric one. Nile. No, not a lot of people are going to know what Nile is. Nile is a Amazon Prime gaming client for Linux, but it's all CLI. It's not the best application, but it's an application. It's not the best application because there's no GUI. The only client available for Prime Gaming stuff on Linux is Nile with no GUI. Most people aren't going to want to deal with the esoteric nature of knowing where, your install media is and all the other paths that you need to know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, where to install stuff and all the program specific commands that you're going to need to know and the way it works. Not the best application. Fine for a CLI, but it's not a great application. Again, outlier, but that's the point. Good is subjective. Safe is also does not coincide with necessarily being good. And good does not necessarily mean it's safe.
Here is the most feared thing on Linux. This is your console. But guess what, guys? Guess what? Windows has got one of these too.
So does
You
Mac
still have
OS.
to use it. Why? Because Windows has a graphic user interface. You can use the terminal on Windows, but let me show you something. You got a GUI right here. This is what this is called. Graphic user interface. Short is GUI. You've got it. If you don't want to go into terminal in Linux, you don't have to. Everything you can do is at a click away, just like in Windows, just like in Mac OS. It's that simple. Okay? Don't be afraid of this just because it's got a terminal. Windows has got a terminal. Are you going to stop using Windows? You're going to be scrolling through your apps one day and go, oh my God, Windows has a terminal. I got to get rid of it because I can't use the terminal. No, you're not. Now, a lot.
So many fallacies on that argument. Okay, short version. Terminal, good, bad, indifferent. I'm a GUI over terminal guy personally. I will say the following. To interact with the desktop, for the most part, applications and bolt-ons for these GUIs to do commands that would normally be done in the terminal, like he was showing Discover. A lot of that is insert package manager here, just with a GUI bolted on it. That's fine. And he's right when it comes to that. Two things. The UI is not just like insert other OS here. Fallacy. Similar. Everything that is similar also has differences. So you're wrong there. As far as the GUI in and of itself and interacting, file manager, all that stuff, kind of the same. Kind of. It's very similar. Drag and drop and all that stuff. Similar. Where I'll argue the difference is, and this is where this perception comes from, that you need to use the GUI, the terminal for everything as opposed to the GUI, is in the documentation. Windows has the documentation showing from the GUI how to fix shit. There's ways to fix things in Linux from the GUI. We just don't show it. Instead, we say, give me a log or a dump file, and hey, here you go, and we'll figure out the problem from that. For some, it's because it's quicker and simpler to diagnose the issue. For others, it is not so simple. When all the help and all the man pages and all the other fucking shit shows this is the way to do it. And this is how you fix it. And it's all the terminal and none of the GUI. We make our own reality because the perception is made by our documentation, which projects to the world that this is the reality we live in, which is the fucking blinking cursor.
Now, a lot of people will also say Windows is just easier to navigate. Really, I can understand that statement. I truly can understand that statement. You know why? Because you've used Windows probably most of your life. But let's really think about Windows. Even Windows 11 now. You've got the Windows over in the center now, but Windows 10 prior, you had a little start button, app menu over here. You click on it, and it brought up applications. Look at this. It does the exact same thing. You've got applications
no, it doesn't.
right there. You've got your store to install them. You come down here, you click on that little button, and it brings them up just like it does on Windows. Sure does. And then right next to it, you got a settings button. Let me open up the oh, let's go ahead and maximize that. There's your settings. Everything from appearance all the way down to software update and everything in between. There's your settings. Appearance, you can come over here. You can change the whole look of your system if you want to. You can't do that on Windows. I know you are comfortable with Windows. I know you think it's easier to navigate. But take the time to try out a Linux distribution, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed.
Not everyone is a mechanic, bro. They want a wrench, just give them a fucking wrench. If they prefer Windows and they prefer the Windows wrench, and that's the one they know, just give them the one that they fucking know. Most people, however, aren't gonna, if you hand them a wrench and don't tell them what the fuck it is, they just see it's a wrench, that's all they care about. Anyway, what I was gonna say, besides that, is that, again, similar does not mean same. You're saying it does exactly the same, and that's just a flat out lie. You want to talk about making, like, I'll say don't make bold general statements. I would say be very careful with your wording when you say shit like that, because that is overselling what it is. And then when people actually use it and are disappointed, we under fucking delivered. This is the type of marketing that I don't like seeing in Linux, is the oversell, under deliver. And this homeboy here is doing plenty of that. Is it easier to use, harder to use? It's relative. Most people are going to be familiar with the idiosyncrasies and habits that they have established in, Windows or Android or iOS, insert fucking form factor with OS here, that they've gotten used to. It doesn't matter what OS it is. So realistically, you have habits on Linux that you wouldn't have on Windows. I know I have habits now when I'm on Windows that I didn't have and don't have when I'm on Linux, because I've used to a certain way of working on Linux as opposed to Windows. So then I have to paradigm shift to a Windows mentality of doing things. So it's relative to what you use. So if you want to be indoctrinated, like Mr. GNU/Linux here, the only person that's indoctrinated is you having a very particular way of viewing Linux. And I'm not sure you actually know where your audience is, or like what your audience is. Is it a general consumer? Because you talk in generalities like you would for a consumer, but then you talk about very specific things that most general consumers aren't gonna fucking care about. So, like, which one is it? Again, to me, it doesn't matter which one you use whatever the fuck works for you. Personally, the way I find that is best for switching people is give them the applications that on the platforms that are available. So if they're on Windows, give them some of the applications, give them a DaVinci, even if they're paid applications, who cares? Like, I don't give a shit. Give them if they're doing video editing, give them Lightworks or DaVinci Resolve on Windows. At the end of the day, the base system won't matter, because all they give a shit is about having the application layer that they need to get the end result that they're looking for. It's the tools to get the job done that allows them to get the end result that they need. So while people will have a preference for a particular tool, a particular way of doing it, etc., if you still give them a off-brand tool that does similar but different, and gives them the same result, they might be able to think and look at it a different way. But don't sell the tool as being a one-to-one. That's where you fall off when it comes to this stuff. You sell all the shit in Linux as a one-to-one, and it's not. That is such a disingenuous position to take. It's not one-to-one on Mac OS. It's not one-to-one when it comes to Android or iOS or the other alternatives that are out there. So stop selling like it.
If you disagree with me, please drop that in the comments below. And generally the next thing I hear is, you can't game on Linux. There's no gaming on Linux. Yes, you can. Now, I'm going to tell you right up front, I'm always above board with my videos because I do have people sometimes say, you're not 100% honest. Every time I've ever talked about gaming on Linux, I've always said the same thing. If you want to play AAA games, you can. If you're wanting to play something with anti-cheat, it's not going to happen yet. It's in the process of getting taken care of with the new SteamOS, which I've covered right here on my channel. If we go down here, let's look. Arch-based SteamOS coming to the desktop soon. I have people come out of the woodwork. SteamOS has been around since 2012. Yes, a Debian version has. The one I'm making this video about is an Arch-based version, which is the same one they have on the Steam Deck. But nobody takes the time to actually sit back and calm down and listen to what I'm saying. SteamOS, Arch-based, is on the Steam Deck, and that's what they're going to bring out to the desktop. So I don't need you blowing up my comments saying, SteamOS for Linux has been around since 2012. Yes, it has. The Debian version. The Arch version that they're coming out with makes hardware accessibility a lot easier, and you're going to have a wider range of hardware that you can use on your system. That's all I ask. Just pay attention. I've got all of these videos, and I talk in all these videos, and I point out the information, and I tell you where to find it. So please, just calm down and take a...
I will say, no, you probably don't. If the step process for grandma that you gave for installing a Linux distro was all the information, you do a lot of overselling and a lot of under-delivering. That's all I'm going to say. You make the Linux experience sound 10 times better than it can be at times.
Take a breath, and then we can learn, and we can do this Linux journey together. Package management we've already covered. Look, guys, in closing, like any software, there's a learning curve to Linux. And it's a shallow one. It's hard to get out of your comfort zone and switch, but once you do, it's a rabbit hole you'll enjoy running around in, I promise you, because you can start in Linux Mint or you can start in Ubuntu.
It's a rabbit hole not every fucking person who uses technology wants to get anywhere near. We all have our rabbit holes, our areas and our, hobbies, etc. are rabbit holes. Mine is Linux technology and gaming. But that's not everybody. So, to start with the logical fallacy that that's everybody is idiotic. Not everyone cares about a niche within a niche within a niche. Nobody cares about the inception. And that's just the reality. It's just, you don't want to speak to, or honestly, I'm going to be real. I don't know who the fuck you speak to or what audience you speak to. I'm not sure if it's the general consumer or if it's, the new technology enthusiasts. If it's the latter, cool. If it's the first, you do a fucking horrible job at it. Just going to be blunt.
Ubuntu, and then swing on over and try some Arch, try some Manjaro, try some Garuda. There is so much fun to be had. I had a lot of fun doing this channel. I have a lot of fun doing these videos for the simple fact that I'm seeing something new every day. And something updated every day. There's always something new to talk about. You can't say that about Windows. You can't say that about Mac. It's the same experience every single day. Yes, I have a system right now that you're looking at. Let me go ahead and minimize this. This is what I'm going to do most of my work on. This doesn't change. I've got boxes down here. I can try a different operating system or two every day if I want to. I'm getting my Proxmox finalized and set up so I can start doing different things on that as a virtual machine server. And that's going to be enjoyable and that's going to be fun. And I'm going to share that with y'all. Show you how to set up your own Proxmox server in your house. Do you have an old laptop laying around gathering dust? I can show you how to utilize it and make it very powerful. So having said that, every OS has its pros and cons, and based on the distribution you choose, they might differ. But overall, if you're tired of Windows, you cannot go wrong with Linux. Please do me a favor before you leave today. Please like, subscribe.
So yes, you can go wrong with Linux. If you are not the target demo, if you're not willing to be open and understand that alternatives are not replacements, that are not one-to-one, that there's going to be a learning curve, that everything that every time, even if it's similar, is going to be different. For every similarity, there's a difference, etc., etc., etc. All the shit that I've already discussed in this entire video, and I'm trying to wrap this up fairly shortly. If that understanding is what you have, then yes, Linux might be for you, and the journey down that rabbit hole might be fun. But for most people, they don't give a shit about what an OS is. They don't care about what runs on the, like, I know the manufacturer. This is a Bold Blue and Blue Bold N2. Any person that has a non-iPhone phone that I hear that is not into technology, and believe me, these are people that are not into technology at fucking all. Oh, I have an Android. They don't know what version. They don't know what fucking, they might know the brand, but that's about it. So they don't fucking care. And that's the gist. They have to, people that want to know about this shit have to care. And if they don't care, I'll present alternatives, but if they're, and I'll sell them as alternatives. Oh, there's going to be a learning curve. You know, it's different. It's not the same. There's some similarities, but there's also differences. I'm setting the table for reasonable expectations that there might be some bumps and some things that they might not like. You're selling it as 100% giddiness over here, and that's the wrong way to sell it. And I think it's really disingenuous. That's just my take. I could be right, could be wrong. Again, content-wise, I'm not the target demo for this dude. Then again, I question. I honestly don't even know what his demo is. To be brutally fucking honest, I'm not sure if it's the technical end or if the new technology enthusiast end, or if it's just the general consumer, because he speaks out of both sides of his ass at this point. Honestly, just my take. Other than that, you guys know what to do. Comment, rate, subscribe, and all the fun jazz down below. Indie Gala, Patreon, etc., etc. And I will catch you guys on the flip. Peace.